Hey, it's your boy Nick from Ghost Frickin' Talkin'. I would like to take this moment out to let you know that the following podcast you're about to listen to has some sound quality issues. We were live on location for this podcast, and on top of having to wear face masks where you're going to be muffled anyway, it seemed to have some microphone issues. I apologize for the issues, and hopefully you still enjoy this awesome podcast from Ghost Frickin' Talkin' live at Wolf Hollow. Enjoy.
There are some things in this world that go way beyond human understanding. Things that cannot be explained. Things that most people don't want to know about. That is where we come.
Do you know what the most frightening thing in the world is? It's fear.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid!
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
It's all true. The boogeyman is real, and you found him.
And there's no more room in hell. The dead will walk here.
I see dead people.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
They're here.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Ghost Frickin' Talkin'. That is right, we are back. We are still live from Wolf Hollow in Rockford, Illinois. And we are back with our friends, Sarah, Sam, Kathy. We are just sitting around shooting the breeze right now, talking a little Krampus and all that, any kind of things. But we are going on hour 3 now of the podcast. So if you guys are still hanging around, I'll actually break this apart so if people want to sit down and listen to a whole freaking 4-hour podcast. But we are live on YouTube, so if you guys can, make sure to leave a like here on YouTube. We are actually live on YouTube. So if you are watching right now, the chat is open. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw questions in the chat. Vanessa H is in the chat. Newsroom Nessie is in the chat and she says hi. So at least we got Newsroom Nessie out there in the chat at least. Also, if you guys anywhere you can download this podcast, make sure to do that. And if you download it on iTunes or Apple, whatever it's called now, they have a rating system. Make sure to give us a good rating and leave a comment, and we will also read that on the show. And if you have your own personal paranormal experiences, I forgot to plug this before, but we do have an email. It's ghostft@yahoo.com. That is ghostft@yahoo.com. Write to us and we'll read your stories on the show and give our thoughts and, see if you're crazy or not. I don't know. We're gloves off, but we love our stories. All right, so we're back here. Sam, you want to get a little closer there? Oh, hold on. Yeah, okay. The microphone is still there.
All right, perfect.
All right, Sam, you're going to have to speak up a little bit.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I know. Sam is from Tinker Swiss Cottage. Mm-hmm. What is your role with Tinker Swiss?
I'm the executive director.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a Victorian house museum, for those who may not know. The house has over 10,000 artifacts that is from the Tinker family, and we do believe that the Tinker family are still hanging around with us today.
Very cool. I have a funny story to start off with. You heard my story about, the whole spirit box or the plasma box thing, or phasma box
yes.
Thing. But my son, who usually does a show with me, he was at Tinker Swiss not too long ago filming a video for school.
Yeah, was it for the Harlem High School?
The Harlem High School thing.
They did Little Women.
Yeah, he was playing a role in that, and so I had him bring in a voice recorder because I'm like, dude, if you're there, if you got some time,
you might as well.
I'm like, see if you can, get the voice recorder going. And he said that he was talking to somebody. I don't know if it was you or not.
Yeah, I was the staff member there that day.
Because he's like, all of a sudden, I was like, I'll be that guy. He goes, wanted to talk paranormal or something with somebody there, and he's like, they probably think I'm crazy, or they're tired of talking about how haunted the place is.
No, never tired at all. That's one of the best parts of the job, honestly, is getting to share our experiences with the Tinker family, with the general public who come in.
Very cool. I should have, during the break, I should have went back and looked up that guy's name that was there for the paranormal tour that day. I forgot what his name is, but
he was what you said.
He's an older gentleman with glasses, gray hair. Yeah, Dale. That's who it was. Boom. There you go.
Yeah.
But another experience that I had there was we were down in the kitchen area during the tour. And now, you were the one that was doing the tour.
All right.
And I was filming, and Dale was kind of standing at the doorway, and he kind of I heard somebody was walking down the stairs behind him. And he kind of looked back, but didn't say anything. And then I stopped what you're doing. I'm like, Dale, did you just hear something? Because I thought I heard someone walking down the stairs. And he kind of turned around and goes, yeah, I thought I heard someone walking down the stairs. He goes, but there's nobody there. So
yeah, we got a lot of footsteps. We got a lot of whistling. We have gotten a lot of people who see shadows, or they see the Tinkers themselves. We have people hear disembodied voices. But not only do they see the Tinkers, they also see some of the servants that worked there. We do have some of the maids. We have a farmhand in the barn. And then on top of that, we do have some children's spirits. There's about 4 of them, and 3 of them, it seems, came from the McFarland's children's home that used to be near the property. And then the 4th one is a little girl who used to come to work with her mom.
Very cool.
So it's a whole soap opera around.
All right, so let's just say you're alone in the house, because I'm pretty sure you walk all the time. Do you just kind of have conversations with them, or do you try to ignore, if you hear something, you're like, I didn't hear anything?
No, when I first started, I had originally started off as a part-time employee, and my boss at the time, Steve, believed that the more you pay attention to them, the more they kind of get tired of you, and so if you sit quietly, they kind of try to get your attention more, because they feel like they're being ignored. And I kind of agree with him. So my thought starting off was, well, then I'll just talk to them nonstop and drive them nuts where they don't want to deal with me. And then they got used to me, and then they started responding, at which point I didn't know whether I should, run out of the house, or if I should just kind of keep what I was doing. But at this point, it's, good morning, guys. Here's the date. This is what's going on. Have a good night. And then every now and then I hear, thanks, you too.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Because living in a haunted house that I live in, I get constantly asked, why are you still living there? Aren't you scared? I'm like, no, it's just like having a roommate, you know? They stay out of my way, I stay out of their way. So I could just imagine, just kind of, after a while, it just becomes second nature to accept them as being there with them.
Yeah.
During my tour, it was one of the Halloween tours or something like that, and I was vlogging, and in the video, the whole time it felt like somebody was standing behind me the whole time. I was standing after you go through the kitchen and you go into the sitting room. I was standing by the door, and it felt like something was kind of like brushing the back of my neck, like reaching behind that door and kind of like touching me. So I kind of like put my camera up like this and trying to see if I could see anything, and I didn't catch anything there. But when we were up in the bedroom at the top floor, it's the bigger bedroom. I don't know whose bedroom that is.
Was it painted red?
No,
okay,
it's
so
not the slanted. No, it's the master bedroom. Yeah. I was standing in the corner area by the window, and you were doing your spiel or whatever, and something kept hitting me in the back of the head, and I kind of like went like this, and so I just kept the camera there, and all of a sudden you see me kind of like react, and you seen this orb just shoot from the corner.
Robert likes to stand over in the corner there.
Validation. That validation.
That's awesome.
Because there's a rocking chair there, I think, or a chair sitting there.
There's a green velvet suede chair. There's an alarm chair
and the orb kind of shot from behind my neck and went behind the chair. So, and it was, I was blown away. And to hear a validation that you say that he likes to stand there in that corner, because it just was messing with me. Either it knew that, I was there to try to catch something, I don't know, or, whether he was just trying to mess with me, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I always give him a pep talk before we have an event. I tell him, all right, guys, it's time to pay the rent. You got to do your job. Take part. Go ahead and, walk by, throw some breeze in the room. If you want to start poking people, just be nice about it, and every now and then they participate.
Very cool. There was a video that was out, I believe, Double T, the radio station guy. They did an event or something.
Yes,
there.
With the Dan Norville Ghost Project.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were doing dowsing rods.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie. Do not go back and listen to our episode where we were talking about the dowsing rods, because I'm not like I said earlier, I am a huge skeptic when it comes down to some of the equipment, and people are like, well, why do you believe in the spirit box? That's just radio signals coming in the whole time. I'm like, well, if you listen closer to the spirit box, you definitely tell that there's a difference between a radio station coming through and, something other than a radio station coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was throwing you under the bus, I'm not gonna lie.
Man.
Because it popped up on my Facebook feed, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, there's just so much human interaction with dowsing rods. Do you typically use dowsing rods there?
So I personally do. I have a sensitivity. It's nowhere near like Sarah.
I don't know about
but I do have a sensitivity, and so I can pick up when they're around, and I can tell when they want to talk. And sometimes I can hear their voices, but most of the times I can't. I can just tell their moods, if you will. And if I know that they really want to talk about something, I'll bring out my dowsing rods, and then we'll do yes or no questions, or I'll have them, give them options A and B, and swing it in this direction. And so I personally do believe in the dowsing rod technique, but I can also understand where there is a lot of skeptic. It's my husband is one of the biggest skeptics you're ever going to meet. He says he doesn't believe in any of this, but just in case, don't bring it home. But he doesn't believe in the dowsing rod stuff. He thinks that it's just muscles moving them, and I'd like to pass them around to the group, and I don't just hold them the whole time. I teach people how to hold them, and then I let the rest of the group see if they can interact with them, and more times than not, they move. But we always say we're not trying to force anybody's beliefs on any of this. We just, it's here. If you want to look into it, we're welcome. We're happy to show you along.
Very cool. So you use the dowsing rods. Do you ever use any other equipment, walking through your house? One day you just sit down a recorder and just kind of do a quick burst session or something?
We do recorders. We do have some SB7 ghost boxes.
I'm an SB11 guy, but that's just the thing.
The 7 was a little cheaper.
Oh yeah, I love it.
But we do have some ghost boxes. Of course, we have, anytime we have guests come in, we welcome just about any type of device, whether it's cameras or recorders or Phasma boxes, or the only thing we don't allow is any kind of spirit boards.
Okay.
But otherwise, we're very open to this.
Yeah, I was really shocked that, because the day that I came in for that tour, I have my GoPro, on this little stand thing, kind of walking through, videotaping, and do you guys even blink an eye on it? I'm like,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, any other place would, be like, you need to put that away. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to throw in there, this is Kathy, but I just wanted to throw in there, as Sarah and I'm really proud of what Sam has been able to do. When we started using Tinker, they would only allow us on the suspension bridge. I wasn't allowed inside.
Really?
We were all like, see that window over there? If you bend down. And then Steve Little started a little bit. He got ghost hunters in, but Sam has taken it to a whole other level, and we're so proud. And she has made it And you know, it's not been easy. It's a kind of fight. I mean, we had to go through the whole thing of proving to the board, because I have a board, of proving to the board that this is a real thing, that, you know, they need to let people come in and do this stuff because it will help with the revenue. You talk money, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I've been there with Sam with her dowsing rods. And like you, I'm like, But seeing her, she's gotten names. And then a week later, she'll call me and she'll go, oh my God, I was researching, because they have diaries and stuff in the family. And yeah, I found that this person had a daughter by this name. It's so cool to watch. And, you know, you have to remember, she's a historian. She's not a paranormal person.
Yeah.
She's kind of done it now because of where she's
like I said, you know, I was a little rough on her on the podcast, but you know, it was just one of those things where, you know, because people in the comments and all that were like, oh, you know, this is awesome. I'm like, but there's like, you don't take an effect that, you know, there's possibility that there's human interaction, and people are like, boom, you know.
Yeah. But, you know, and I agree with you. A lot of times I've been with people and I'm like, I don't know what you're doing there, but that's not. But watching Sam and knowing, you know, how she's validated what she's found, and that it is able to be validated.
Okay.
Speaks volumes.
All right. So
I think it's a little bit different if you're working with. So for the three of us, for instance, we work with Sam, or we work together a lot. So I think it's very different coming from the outside. I would be the same way, and you know, I would do the same thing side eye, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know you. I don't know your level of integrity. You know, and unfortunately, even for, you know, psychics, right? There is a lot of charlatans out there, and they've really given a bad name. I mean, you know, what is that show that was over in England, The Most Haunted or something like that? And they
staged stuff.
They staged it. I mean, well, he did, and so I think one of the cast members or one of the producers was getting this idea that their guy Derek, and this is all well known now. I'm not, you know, slandering, but that they suspected he wasn't legit as he claimed to be, and so they went into a location early on in the evening or ahead of time, and had said some random name and some backstory of this name that just it was like John Smith was in this area in 1824, right? The name was, of course, more clever than that, but then Derek comes in later on and he gets possessed by this John Smith who was here, but you know, none of that actually occurred. They were planting that information because they suspected he had a wire or something, or he had some type of recording device, and sure enough, he did. So yeah, there's a lot of charlatans, but working with Sam and watching her with the dowsing rods, then she's handed them over to me, for instance, and I get no reaction. I get nothing. It doesn't work for me at all. And so then I think, well, should I wiggle it a little bit? Like, am I supposed to, do I have to shake them a little, because nothing's happening? And she'll ask the questions, they will not respond, but then she'll give them to, a guest, a child. And then they start smoothing. So it's me, what it is.
And
they hate me,
but she's built a relationship.
Yeah.
With the spirits there, too. I mean, and that's what we try to emphasize. We go into a place the first time, maybe Sarah's not picking up much. And people equipment, it doesn't work real great either. But when you go back time and time again, we've seen it happen a lot of times, like at the cemetery walks.
Yeah.
She'll have a little bit come through, but the next time we come through, I go through for the cemetery walks and I practice the stories. And I invite them to come, there's going to be a psychic here that's going to be able to talk to you, and on Friday night. And but if we go back, then they get to use her. It's like me sitting down with you. I'm not going to tell you my deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah.
5 minutes after meeting you.
Yeah.
But if we get to know each other like we all have here, Sam and Sarah and I have, then you open up more. And I don't know why people think that they can just show up in a haunted place and the spirits are going to...
Yeah. It's like jump, pony, jump.
Right.
Yeah.
When you build a relationship. And that's why Sam gets all the responses she does, because it's just like sitting down with a friend.
Yeah.
That's why we are better.
And not everybody clicks with everybody.
No.
I mean, God, we all remember high school, right? Like,
Yeah, right?
seriously?
No, I don't.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. Like, you always want to be the popular kid, but
But like
you know.
Sarah said too, you meet some of these people from the other side and they don't like you. It's just like when you meet people and you're like, I don't know, there's something just about off about that person.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with dead folk. I mean, I don't know why people expect them to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, don't take too much offense to me slamming you.
No, it's okay. I'll just put this in my journal later.
Cry into my cup of coffee.
You know, it's just you know, if I hadn't had experiences in the house, personal experiences in the house, somebody would come across a video such like that and be like, well, is she just trying to sell tickets to get people to come to the house?
Sure. And I think these are logical questions. Honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I have no offense whatsoever if people want to question this, because it is something that there is no way we can ever 100% prove any of this.
Right.
And so since it is still the unknown, and it's not the normal, it's the paranormal.
Nope.
You know, it's things that there's always going to be people who are skeptic, and that's okay.
Very cool. So Ghost Hunters was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever been contacted by like Ghost Adventures? Here we go.
So here's the thing.
Are you guys like, we're not laying Zach's ass in this place?
So my predecessor, Steve, Kathy had mentioned, he was the one who brought Ghost Hunters in. He, you know, ex-military guy, super nice, but he's very strict on some things. And so when Ghost Adventures called up, he said no. And they said, well, do you know who this is? This is, for Zach Bagans. And he goes, no. And he hung up the phone.
No, you don't do Zach like that, do you?
Wow.
So that's what had happened.
We could have been somebody.
Yeah.
We could have been on the map.
Jeez. Ghost Hunters is small game. Ghost Adventures is the Super Bowl of Ghost
the
Hunters.
thought was
He was like, no, thank you. We don't need you here.
We do very well without Zach Bagans, the biggest ghost hunter in America.
No thanks.
The big issue was every single episode of Ghost Adventures, he comes in and he yells at the spirits, and he provokes
So that
them.
was
And
early Zach Bagans.
And that was around the time though that this phone call had happened.
Yeah, this was what, 2011-ish when Ghost
around
Hunters
there.
came.
So when Ghost Hunters came,
and he was
Sarah
still being
and I
possessed. Zach Bagans was still frequently being possessed.
and demons everywhere. And when Ghost Hunters came, Sarah and I were both interviewed for the show.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't
cutting room
No,
floor.
yeah, we were definitely cut.
Their big thing at that time was they wanted people to be scared, and Sarah and I are like, you can startle you here, but we're not scared. I mean, it's not like they said, what would you do if we can help you? You need help in this place. Well, no, this is a family. We don't want anything to happen to them. We don't want them gone. We want the ghosts to be left alone. Thank you.
Right.
And the questions they asked me were like, were you afraid for your life? Not so much.
I can take you somewhere.
Yeah,
I was afraid for my life.
Right, yeah. But this is not that kind of place. And
no, that's down the road.
I get called probably maybe once or twice a year from different shows. Like from Canada, they're doing a lot of the ghost shows in Canada. You're
doing haunted hospitals up there.
25. You're scared 24 hours. You're most scared 24 hours, and I'm like, no, I really don't need that. And I turn them down every time because I don't want to be seen as that. And it's fine for me. It's not, one of the women who runs a Chicago tour was like, you need to quit your day job and devote yourself entirely to this, and then you need to go on to all the shows and stuff. And I'm like, no, that's what you do, but I don't need to do that. This is my weekend gig.
When we were interviewed for that Netflix called Haunted, the show Haunted, the casting director guy, he wanted to see more emotion out of us when we were talking about the experiences. And he's sitting there, he's like, oh, this sounds like it's freaky. And he goes, I see no emotion in you. He goes, the cameras want to catch emotion. And he's like, aren't you afraid? I'm like, I'm not afraid. I'm like, what do you know? Yeah, we've been scratched. We've had things thrown, things moved. We've seen, people that were there that aren't there. But it's not like I'm going to go. And then when the show finally came out, you're watching the episodes and people are crying on the episode. And it's like, wow, I don't get why do we have to put the emotion in it, because if you guys show the evidence, that's enough to freak somebody out, than, seeing somebody crying on screen.
And we've had moments that were really, really scared. Sarah, why don't you tell them about the time at the Alden?
Oh my gosh, Alden. So, the Alden, and it's Alden, not Alton. Alden Schoolhouse. Kathy and I were there. We were doing a tour. We brought, 30 some odd people. There's quite a large group. And we had toured the main floor, and so we were going down into the basement. And this schoolhouse, the basement was sort of set up so that in inclement weather, because, it's northern Illinois, the kids could go downstairs and have gym class or recess and whatnot. So there's kind of this big open area in the basement. But then as you head down the hallway, there's also an area that this ramp kind of slants down into this room, which I'm assuming is for the coal, right? They would dump coal in. It's a larger area, but of course you're trying to heat a schoolhouse, so you probably need a lot more coal than the average home, right? Right. And then of course there's this back room, and then bathrooms and so on and so forth. Kathy and I, we were in the basement. The tour group we kind of give them free reign, let them walk around. They've got dowsing rods of their own. They've got their own equipment, so they're walking around. And so we kind of peeled away and we went down the ramp into this coal area. And we were just kind of having a conversation, like, how do you think it's going? I thought, oh, it's good, that sort of thing. Just kind of going over the evening. And we're facing each other a lot like we're doing right now. I'm facing her the same direction. And there's a light from the gymnasium. That's what I'm going to call it. The gym, right? It's just enough light so that we're not in total darkness. So you can see, you're kind of backlit here, right? So you can see. And I'm looking at her, and all of a sudden on the ground is this, it's like the shadows start to morph. So the regular floor starts to become like smoke, and it starts to move like waves. And I'm looking, and I'm like, so she's talking to me, and I'm looking, and my eyes are very expressive. My whole face is very expressive. I don't have a poker face, so this actually helps me.
Yeah, the story we told earlier. So when all of a sudden Sarah gets this like
Garfield eyes,
that really scares you.
Yeah, right?
Because I don't have a poker face. Whatever is going on here is going to register across my face.
And I don't know why it is, but whenever you get that look, it's usually something behind me.
Yeah, almost every single time. So I'm watching. So this was no different. So I'm watching the floor, and I'm trying to do like that. You're like trying to make the eye contact, but you're also trying to keep an eye on what's going on. And it's undulating and it's building, and then it starts to form a shape. And it's like this big spider. This thing is huge. It's got to be 6 to 8 feet, leg to smoky leg, right?
It's Aragog from Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, perfect. And it's not solid. It's still got like, here's a leg, but it's still like smoky kind of, And it starts to go up the wall. So now my eyes, like, there's nothing. It's just huge. I look like Garfield. I have no idea what Kathy's saying at this point. It comes up the wall. I follow it up over our heads, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I've got my hood. Like, I'm losing it in my mind. And then it starts to come down behind me, and Kathy goes, do you see that? And I was like, I looked at her as it's coming down behind me. I was like, we have to get out of here. We go running up the ramp, screaming.
And you're not on drugs, right? No.
Right now, I know. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I was like, are you serious right now? So we were like, what? And we go screaming up this ramp, right? Because that's what professionals do. You scream and leave the area as quickly as possible.
The opening Ghost Adventures.
Stop
running.
It works for Zach. So all of a sudden, we're flying out of there. And, of course, people came running down. So then we fast forward to one of the Paracons where Rosemary Ellen Guiley has been invited.
I really want to meet her. Yeah.
Well,
she's passed away. Yeah, that's right.
just the other year.
No, I'm thinking of who's the she's a blonde chick from Chicago.
Oh yeah, that's Ursula Bielski.
Ursula Bielski.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. No, other blonde. Rosemary. She has written. There isn't any weird topic that Rosemary didn't write about. Like, if you can think of it, she wrote or co-wrote. So she comes to the Paracon. She's the headliner. Kathy and I pull her aside afterwards, and we're talking to her because we worship her. She's wonderful. Was wonderful, and we bring up this smoky entity spider from Alden House, and honest to God, I don't know what is worse. The fact that I'm sitting here thinking it's a spider, or the fact that she goes, oh, yeah, we call them scuttlers. Stop saying that word. She's like, yeah, they're scuttlers because they scuttle up the walls. Like, stop saying the word. It doesn't make it better. Like, it's so much worse now. Yeah, so that's what she had a name for it.
Wow.
Yeah, she thought maybe it was like an elemental.
We were very, very frightened.
Yeah, I mean, this thing was huge.
When Sarah, it's like, Sarah, what is that? And when she says to me, I have no idea.
Yeah,
then I know we're in trouble because then I don't know what this is. If it's a bad, because we had faced a darker entity at the same place. Sarah picked up there that there was a maintenance man at the school that would sneak down because they had a boys and a girls bathroom down there, and he would watch the children.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah.
And he didn't like it because Sarah's like, this guy's doing this, and we told everybody, this is what's happening. And so he didn't like his dirty little secret told. So when we would go back, we were saying how they'll give you more when you go get familiar with them. Mm-hmm. He got familiar with her pretty quick, and he didn't like her. And you could feel it as soon as you walked down there. So we had already dealt with that. And when I asked her about that, then she could tell me, well, it's this maintenance guy. He's doing this weird stuff. But this one she had no clue for, and I'm like, don't tell me that.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a person. I don't really know how to describe it. It just felt
different.
Yeah, very old, very weird. It didn't feel male or female. I mean,
never been human. That kind of
thing. It was just bizarre. So when we brought it up, because we were like, Rosemary, you've written on everything. What could it possibly be? She's like, oh, we call it a scuttler. I was like, stop saying that. Stop saying that word. Never say that again. It's worse now. She goes, yeah, they usually form into spiders or crabs. And I was like, you know what? That's good enough for me. More than enough.
So does it make you feel good to have validation?
Absolutely. I mean, no matter what, I think regardless of what it is, people want to be validated. Right?
Well, like just sitting here, talking about the Tinker Swiss, thing in the corner, and
absolutely.
Boom. Or the first time I came through Wolf Hollow here, I got a weird feeling by the church pew. I didn't know this first time coming in. I had no idea of anything going on here, and I just got a really bad feeling by the church pew, like something was there. And I came back with my girlfriend at the time, and you guys had the night where you guys were telling stories here, and then all of a sudden you guys started talking about the ghost by the pew.
Yeah.
And I'm like, validation.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a medium, but I do pick up on things.
And that's the thing. Everybody says that. Like, I'm not psychic, I'm not a medium. You can ascribe whatever word you want to it, but everybody is on some level, right? It's the same. For instance, if I said, everybody pull out a piece of paper right now and draw a guy in a top hat. We could all do it. Now, the skill level may be different, right? Like, you might be an amazing artist, and it's like Abraham Lincoln, wow, that's incredible. And I'm over here drawing a stick figure with a top hat, right? But theoretically, we can all do something that is discernible as a man in a top hat, right? It's the same thing with psychic awareness or mediumship or any of that. We all have that cue. It's kind of going back to what you said about, back in the ice ages, right? When we had to be aware of the predators and whatnot. We had to rely on that sixth sense. We're so westernized in this idea. We don't even know that we're using psychic terms, right? I'm using little air quotes, so that'll translate really well on radio.
On podcast, she is doing air quotes.
Air quotes, laser.
But on YouTube, you can see it.
On YouTube, you'll be able to see the finger quotes. But it translates. I mean, we say these things without ever realizing what we mean. So, for instance, when you walk into a room, say, a couple has been fighting. You weren't there for the fight. But you walk in and you're like, wow, what do we say? We say, you could have cut that tension with a knife. You felt that. Now, how did you know they were fighting? You didn't hear it. You weren't there. because you pick up on it, right? And it's the same thing. Cops, police officers, for instance, I had a hunch. I just knew that was the bad guy. Or nurses, right? When they're like, they're going to pass, right? They may not have any visual cues. They might just have a feeling as they walk into the room, you know, especially with hospice. Hey, you might want to make sure that you're calling your family right, or you're going to be here because they're not going to be here much longer. Well, how do they know? Sometimes there aren't those cues, right? They just know. That is in all of us, you know, that's all of us. It's just that some people are a little bit more tuned up than others. But I think everybody, the more you go into haunted locations, the more switched on you become.
See, that's my thought, is that I never believed in anything paranormal until I moved into my house. And then, you know, stuff started happening. Tools were moved. Things were whispering into my ear. And you just started getting, you know, when that, whatever it is, gets around you, you just get the hairs on the back of your neck, or you just get like this, like, feeling inside of you. And I don't know if after living in there for almost 20 years now that, you know, I've, you know, grown accustomed to, you know, knowing when something is around. So I come here, I feel it there. The Veterans Memorial, just walking into the front door of that, or feeling the Mr. Tinker messing with me in the corner of the bedroom. So
that's all your own. And it's, we say psychic awareness. I'm not a giant fan of the word, because when I say the word psychic, like, I picture like the gypsy with the, you know what I mean?
I'd love to be looking to your future.
You know, and I'm not trying to be disparaging to gypsies, but, you know, like, I just want to, you know, it doesn't always have the best imagery, right? But that's our awareness. And the thing that drives me crazy, and has for many, many years, I don't mind the skeptics at all. Not at all. Because I'm skeptical. If you came up to me and you're like, I'm a psychic, I get everything, blah, 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 I'm like, you know, prove it, right? I'm just like everybody else. So when they say, oh, prove it, if I can, you know what I mean? It is what it is. But when we try to put everybody into boxes and we try to categorize them, well, Amy Ellen sees this. Well, I'm not Amy Ellen. I've never seen, like, the one episode with paper people hanging out in the trees. I've never seen that, thank God. She sees some bizarre stuff. Okay, like, the spider was enough, thank you. I'll just handle, like, dead folks, okay? I don't need to see that all the time. But, you know, we sit there and think, oh, I'm not like her. I don't see this like her. Or John Holland, or Teresa Caputo, or, you know, any of these big name people who are out there. Oh, I don't see that like that, or I don't get those cues like they do. They say they feel it, you know, wherever. I get it in my stomach, or I get it in my head, or
and
I
don't
get
even
it
get
on
me
the
started
back
on
of the neck.
Long Island Medium. I've bashed her so many times on this podcast. It's ridiculous, because it's like you're in a group of people. I feel that somebody here just lost somebody, and 14 people raised their hand.
Why else are they there?
Yeah, exactly.
Why else are they there?
Yeah.
That's why I don't generally enjoy doing readings.
You have a weird story about Teresa. We actually went to see her. My significant other likes to surprise me with really cool things. Like for our first Valentine's Day, he took me to a seance.
Hey, you know,
Yeah,
sounds like a cool guy to me.
I had a keeper. But he took me to see Teresa Caputo, and he kind of wanted her to pick up for, you know, because his parents are passed, my parents are passed, and we were sitting there, and the balcony was we were up in the balcony, and the railing was right in front of us, and we got in, we sat down, and I was more entertained the thought of that I had some jujubes in my purse, and I was thinking I could drop them down on that guy behind it, you know. That's what I was doing during the Teresa Caputo show. But she was talking about the way that our loved ones come through, and sometimes they leave us signs. And we get up to leave, and right on that railing that I had been hanging over earlier, there were pennies just sitting there.
Oh, wow.
Weird.
And I think it was my mom.
Yeah.
You know,
very cool.
Again, because I do have a belief in I think she was kind of having kind of a fun, like, I don't need to come through some fancy dress, high-heeled woman who, you know, spends more time in her hair than God normally allows. You know, I don't need to let her know that I'm here for you to know I'm here.
Yeah,
so that was kind of my thing. You know,
Yeah.
you don't need to go pay all those big bucks to have.
I've talked to a
Somebody
lot
talk
of
to you.
people, especially at the Paracons, but especially doing our tours, when they're like, you know, I think I'm sensitive. This is what I get. What do you think? And they want that validation. They want to be validated. And I tell them, look, just because I get things a certain way, because I'll tell them, well, I'll get it in, my head or my neck region, right? And then you can kind of see them deflate a little bit. And I back up and I'm like, look, when I was a child, I got it through the gut. Absolutely through the gut every time. It changes. And I said, don't take what my experience is. Like, we could sit here, I tell them all the time, we could sit here and we could argue the color of my shirt. I could say it's burgundy, somebody else could say it's purple, somebody else says it's red. We don't agree on things in this life. No. Why on earth would we agree on everything on the other side? So trust your own cues is what I tell them.
And the other thing, Sarah and I have worked together enough now that when we go into places, her energy helps me pick up stuff, and sometimes when the three of us are together, forget it.
You guys are the Saner sandwiches, right?
Oh man, that means I'm winning. I'm the oldest. Anyway, so we've been in places and I'll say, oh my God, are you seeing this? And she'll go, no, I'm not seeing that at all. And then I'll describe to her what I'm picking up. And just because I'm getting something, I used to think, oh, well, then it can't be happening. And she said, no, tell me what you're seeing. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes I know the stories a little better than she does, and I can get cues, and I'll be, oh my gosh, this is what happened. And so, she's really helped me feel more comfortable, and Sam has helped me, because there's a lot of times that Sarah can't make something, and it'll just be the two of us, and she'll say something, and I'm like, good, then I don't feel so...
It's the forces
crazy.
Combined.
Yeah. You don't cross the streams. But so,
cool.
it really does help when you work with a team like this. Like I said, I was going through, a couple of psychics, and I just felt, and it really was the fact that the psychics are an important part of what I work, the way I work, but they're not the only show. So that's what it is. Yep. Sarah and I have worked together so long, and Sam now, that it takes all of us to make a good experience. And that's what we're really about. It's not, I never want to be a TV star. I'm not in for it. Yeah. I am in for the history. That's where my passion lies, in telling these people's stories in a compassionate way. And then, getting to have some goose-pimply things happen.
Oh, definitely.
At a cool place like Tinker, that's just amazing. And that's what it's really all about for us. And it's not about the egos, and it's not, with us, it will always be the place we're at and the dead folk. I call them dead guys. We're looking for dead guys. Yep. It's always about them. It's not about us.
Very cool. Yeah, when I was at the event at the Memorial Hall, you were on stage doing your thing, and it was a creepy night anyway, because a storm was rolling in, and you had flashes of lightning outside, and you just had the whole vibe with it. It was really cool, but I kept seeing shadows on the balcony area.
Yeah.
And it's like, would I be seeing that if I was here for a play or something, or is it just?
Or would you recognize it if you were seeing it?
Yeah, because
you're in a different environment.
You're ramping it up with the getting a spooky vibe in there, so your senses are tingling to where there's somebody standing up there, and then you kind of looked, and my son's like, I thought I saw someone standing up there. I'm like, dude, there was nobody standing up there. I'm like, so it seemed like things were running up there.
It happens a lot when we do the paranormal investigations. We have these people that see the TV shows and they think, oh, I could do that, or I want to do that, and Tinker is the only place this has happened. But we get in there, you turn out the lights, you break out the equipment, and then and excuse my French, but shit gets real. Yeah. And stuff starts happening, and people are like, I am out. I didn't know it was going to be like this. Because you
didn't get though.
Yeah, I love the fact when I went in for that tour of Tinker, before the lights got turned out and doing the Phasma box, you were like, if you are afraid and want to go, there's a door right now before I turn the lights off. So, and then people were scurrying out. I'm like, you paid to get here to experience this.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it? It's mind-boggling.
It's like people are always like, oh, I want to go on a ghost hunt. but don't want to catch ghosts when you go on a ghost hunt. I'm like, what are you going to do? How are you going to react? And then you have this opportunity. You paid $20, $30 or whatever for this opportunity, and you're going to scoot before the stuff gets, real.
Yeah. It's like this full immersion. It's like why we like horror movies, right? Like you go to the movie theater, you're safe. You can watch whatever's going on because you're safe in the theater. But now you go to a paranormal event in a tour like Tinker or Veterans or whatever, and now it's full immersion. And then you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then we're like, and now we turn off the lights. And we're like, and we're done.
It's like shit got real and I'm gone.
Yeah. Even though we're sitting here laughing because, even the four of us, right? Like, we're like, it can happen with the lights on.
Yeah, right?
As soon as you turn on those lights, they're gone. They're like,
Yeah, and everyone's all like, well, why do you always have to do ghost hunts in the dark? I'm like, you don't have to. It's just, it's more for, cameras, because you get the full UV, in the dark or whatnot, and, you just get better evidence visually that way.
Sure.
The ghosts are around you all the time. They don't wait till you turn off the light and, they're not just standing in that dark shadow in that corner. They could be right behind me right now. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, because we've been asked, why do you guys do events at night? Why do paranormal investigators always seem to investigate at night? Well, I've investigated during the day and caught some very compelling things, but I think a lot of times is that what happens at night, well, things get quiet, right? Mm-hmm. Especially in the summertime or the springtime. The earth is very, very loud during those times, right? There's no moment of silence until the sun goes down, and then the night animals kind of come out and they're creeping, and you might hear crickets and whatever, but we instinctively also get quiet. Mm-hmm. We start to slow down, we start to get quiet, and we're listening more. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a lot of why, plus, if you have a job, like, I can't be there on Monday morning, going to Waverly.
Places that we investigate too, like the Coronado Theater, that was my first place I really was with a team and investigated. I mean, they're busy. They've got things going on there during the day.
That's a bucket list item too. To get in there.
It's wonderful.
It's an amazing place. And at that time, they had wonderful historians there. I'm sure they've got them now. I'm just not in touch with them as much. But we were all building everything then, and coming through with different psychics just to get what is happening here and having our experiences. But now that I'm, almost 20 years older than I was when I started this, I don't need to be up at 3 in the morning.
Right?
It's a little difficult.
It's a little tiring, but but definitely, because some of the places we go in, they're open. We've been at bars, you have to wait till they slow down a little bit.
Oh gosh,
definitely.
those are difficult. Yeah. You know what I love about like Coronado and Tinker, and I back when we could get in and we were doing tours ourselves, not through Coronado, but our own investigations through Coronado, for instance, was that it's kind of a twofold thing. One, so many people had never been in there. They can't afford the ticket to go to a show, and it's not like there's not really an open door policy. You can't just, and for better or worse, right? For better or worse, you don't want anything to be vandalized or stolen or whatnot, right? So, I get it, but so many people haven't gone in. They have no idea the opulence and the beauty and it's just over the top, right? It's amazing. But the other half is that you go, and my favorite thing to do was to pull people up onto the stage, and we'd stand there, and I say, look out into the audience and just wait. I said, because all the stairs are lit with those little, theater lights. And I said, watch the stairs, because you'll see people pass back and forth on those stairs. You'll see the lights blink as people are walking back and forth, and everybody would see it. It's a place where like everybody can have a collective experience, and I love that. But the same thing with Tinker. How many times, Sam, have you heard? I have never been in here. I've lived in Rockford my entire life.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane how many people who, like you said, live there. We have people in their 80s, their 90s, who say, I never made it here my whole life, and I thought, well, now's the time to come out and check it out. But we get so many people in every paranormal event. We start off by asking a general poll. Who's been here before? Who hasn't? And if you haven't, would you have come to the museum if we didn't have something paranormal going on? And more times than not, they say no.
I would have never. It's not like I'm like, let's go and look at old homes. Me, it was like, ooh, they got something paranormal there. that's
Sure.
gonna make me buy a ticket.
Yeah.
You know, I will drop that $30 to go
I
to
think
Tinker.
a lot of
or-
us remember like our high school or our grade school history teacher, right? And you're like, wah, wah, you know,
Yep.
they just don't. Yeah, how do you? It's hard to teach history with that level of enthusiasm that sells it to other people. I think it's probably any grade, right, or any class. It's not just history, but history gets a rap, right? And they're like, oh, it's dry, it's all dead, it's all, you know, it's so boring. So yeah, maybe they wouldn't go for a history tour, but they went for the paranormal tour, and then they get to see the house, and then they come back for the history tour. I want to know. I want to know more about who these people were. Why did they live like this? Why did they? I'm curious. Have you? This is a question. I'm taking over. Welcome to my show.
Go ahead. The reins are yours.
Sam, you say okay. You don't allow spirit boards in Tinker. But my question is, do you have any historical record or any evidence or anything at all that spirit boards had been used by the family? And I ask this because of the parlor having those round corners, which is very spiritualist.
Right. We do know that the Tinkers did have a couple of seances in the home. However, in the Victorian era, a lot of times what they did in seances is they would ask for knockings.
Sure, yeah.
Because the Ouija board wasn't actually invented until, 1893, around there?
Yeah.
I think there were versions of it, but not the one that we see today. Yeah.
Exactly. And so more times than not, it was more, can you make the knocks? Or can you make something move? Or can you show yourself to us? You know, that was more of the Victorian time frame that the Tinker family was in. But we do know that there were some seances in there. Kathy, I believe you actually had brought in early on a person to do a seance.
Right. We had a couple of them there. And we were excited because that was when Steve was the executive director. And I had gone to the seance that I told you about for Valentine's Day and met the guy, and I was like, hey, you should come up to Rockford and we'll try it. But we were at a place, at this particular one I went to, was an old brothel, and it had a bad guy, you know, so we could get a little confrontational with. I didn't realize that was this particular man's only speed. He wanted to be confrontational about everything. And so when he gets to Tinker, it's like somebody coming in and getting confrontational with your grandma. You know, it just, I was like, whoa, we have to shut this down. But we were able to get a couple of things that came through. He was trying to pit, there are two Mrs. Tinkers, and he was trying to pit them against each other and say, hey, what do you think about her taking your place?
Yeah, how about that? You know, you're getting replaced by this young chippy over here.
I was like, whoa, you know.
Yeah.
So then after that, we just didn't invite him back because of his technique. It just worked better when we didn't. And now, you know, now you don't need to, because that was when we were trying to almost train the Tinkers to come forward. And we needed extra help for them to do that, for us and for them. And now they know they've got it down pat, and they can just come through and let you know. And we, you know, that's so much better than working through that seance.
Talking about seances and stuff like that, I don't know if you can disclose this or not, but you can't do this stuff inside the house. But has there ever been, you know, people jacking around outside the house, whether, you know, if you caught it on any kind of outside cameras, or you found
They raise the dead outside,
or you know, or have you found dead cats or something, you know, sacrificed on the front porch?
Fortunately, there have been no sacrificial animals.
That's good news.
That is great news. We are affiliated with the Rockford Park District, and so because of that, the grounds are open for the public to use every day from sun up until sundown. Once dusk hits, then the park is, you know, officially closed. Of course, if we're running events at the museum, that's a different story. But we have a lot of neighborhood kids down there who like to come down. They go fishing, or it's kind of creepy every now and then, you know, where you walk out of the house just at twilight, and all of a sudden you have all these kids swarming around you, almost like children of the corner. and they just want some ghost stories, which is great. I mean, we absolutely love it. But the neighborhood, you know, the neighbors are very well aware that the Tinkers are still here. They tell us all the time. They see this person walking in the grounds at night, or this person sitting up on the balcony staring at them. And so we've had a couple of people who have come out near, because we do have a Native American burial mound on the property, and we have seen some people come out and, burn incense out there. But as far as we know, nothing else has really happened on the exterior.
Thank God.
We did have a kind of a funny story happen way back when we first started holding investigations. They had a hobo camp in the woods there, and I didn't know that. But we were, everything's quiet. We're all sitting there doing the spirit, whatever, trying to communicate, and you hear this singing, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're getting something. Oh no! There were two hobos that had, they had a little too much to drink, and they were serenading each other on the suspension bridge.
Oh, nice.
So the kind of spirits we connected with that night were not what we were expecting.
A little bit more tangible.
Yeah, but sometimes that happens, and it's just that contamination you got to watch for all the time, and that's why a lot of times we do the things at night, because there's not as much traffic, there's not as much people walking around. Yeah. So, and I have to say that it has always been remarkable to me, the people in that neighborhood that really value the ethnic and their heritage and the history of that. Downtown Rockford is amazing with the history.
Yeah, definitely. Me and Newsroom Nessie, we actually went down there. It was a nice day out, and she had never been to the house. You guys are closed, and it's COVID and whatnot. So we're just walking around the outside, and she had on a Ghost Freaking Talking shirt, and I have the Wolf Hollow shirt, and we were like, well, let's just do a merch shoot, around the house and stuff like that. And it's like, I wonder if how many people come out here and just do that kind of stuff, take pictures.
Oh, we get photo shoots out there all the time. We get people for their weddings or proms, but we also get people who come out in costumes and things like that as well, and they like to sit up on the porch or in the garden somewhere dressed up in these really, some of them really fancy, some of them are a little more out there. But yeah, we get people coming out just to take photo shoots because it's just a gorgeous backdrop.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Pictures came out, just even on a phone, it's really good. But you're always blowing up that picture, looking inside the window. Yeah. It's like, is there someone
who's
looking
out the window?
Yeah, who's peeking out the window?
Please let it be me. Please let it be me. I really want to see something.
Yeah. So Tinker Swiss, has everything been cut off, or do you guys still having limited amount of people, or is it?
So the state had shut us down mid-November again, and then we've just recently been allowed to reopen. So this past week was actually our first. We're doing a soft opening, if you will, just watching the numbers. So we're doing tours Tuesday through Friday at 1 and 3, and we're keeping it a maximum of 10 people per tour. As long as everything goes fine during the month of February, we're going to resume our regular general history tours Tuesday through Sunday, twice a day, bringing the number up to 15 people per tour. And we're hoping that in March we'll also be able to start doing our paranormal nights again. We have been able to do some private rentals because we do allow private groups to come in and investigate the museum, not just on the public side. So we've had some private ones, but those have been kept at 5 people or less. Okay. So it's been a weird year.
Yeah, because like I said, my son, they did the video out there in the house. So.
Yeah, that was neat. The kids from the high school came out, and since they can't put on a play, they produced a film. From
and I didn't get to see it, but he saw the final cut of it, and he said it looks like it's just like a movie. Just having that backdrop of what Tinker Swiss looks.
We're excited to see it. I think it's supposed to come out this spring or something.
Yeah.
So we're excited.
He said it came out looking really cool, and he said that was his first time going into the house, and he goes,
"Oh, good."
And he picks up on the stuff like I do, and he said that just being in there is just like you could definitely feel there's something there.
Right. Well, and the kids were all dressed in,
the
period costumes.
Period garb. So the spirits got to be like, what's going on here? Did we do a time shift?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
What's old is new.
Mandela effect happening now.
Are we dead?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as a staff member, I'm in there every day, and so they do feel a little bit more comfortable, as we kind of talked earlier. And it's funny because sometimes we'll have people come in for photo shoots or something. They'll be setting up something. You know, we had a podcast come in and they brought in their own table to sit at, and so they were setting up the table, and I felt somebody just tapping me on the shoulder, kind of, what are they doing in my parlor?
So was this a paranormal podcast coming in?
It was, yeah. It was the Haunting Table podcast.
Haunting Table, huh?
So, yeah, we have people come in for podcasts, we have them come in for photo shoots, we have them come in for plays, you know, and so the Tinkers are very aware of what's coming into their home and how the people look, and they take a very active interest in it.
Very cool.
Like I mentioned, I travel all over the country to go to different places, but what I love about Tinker is, and Sam mentioned this earlier, they actually have their furnishings, their table settings that they ate with, their clothes. You know, the place that I mentioned earlier at Fort Lincoln, we go into Custer's house and they said, this drape, the tieback is...
Oh, that's the original. Yeah, other is the refab, you know.
And I'm like, what? You know,
that's cute.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out.
Look at you with your one artifact. Let me show you something.
We have all of these 10,000 artifacts at this place, and if you think about the people, places, and places, and things can be haunted. Wow.
Yeah, you know how many things have something tied to it.
Down in the Springfield, I think they've got his Lincoln. There was, I think, a wood-burning stove that might have been left there because it was too heavy to move.
Yeah.
And then they have like part of his shaving brush.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. But Tinker Swiss has tons.
And it's so amazing, and it makes me very, very proud of Rockford that number one, that we've been able to hang on to all of that through these really tough times. Museums weren't doing so good a couple of years ago, and because of that, you know, it's scary when you think about some of the places, and some of them you can't even see. We were talking the other day about some of the places that we used to get into that different places have owned, like the Briggs Mansion. You can't get in there anymore because it's closed. The Barnes Mansion we got into a couple of times. That's owned again by the Burpee Museum, and it's just, you know, it's hard to get into these places when they don't want to, you know, the money's not there or whatever. So we're really proud of Tinker that they have been able to maintain.
It seems like whenever somebody asks me, well, what's in Rockford that's haunted? First thing that always pops up to mind is Tinker Swiss.
Right.
So it's usually like always Tinker Swiss. Now that I've found out that there's stuff happening out at what was it, Midway Village,
and almost every house out there.
Every house.
What I had the most feelings was in the back. There's a barn in that back corner.
There's two barns. The red one or the gray one?
Yeah, I think it's the red one. I don't know. It's in the back far corner. On the right-hand side.
On the right-hand, as you're facing the village, that's the gray one. That's the older one.
All right.
The other one is red, and they use it for events. My daughter had her wedding there. Beautiful.
Okay. It wasn't the red one, because the red one seems like it's more revamped inside. No, it's the old.
So much.
Yeah, the other ones did not so much one.
No.
I got into that one for. They were reading a book or something in there for. Yeah, they were reading a kid's book. They had hay bales set up, and somebody was reading a book in there, and you're just standing in there. It's like, man, the feeling is heavy.
It's very heavy.
Yeah, it is. And then there's a little tiny house behind Breckenridge. Yeah. What is it behind? It's behind. It's like set off the path.
Or something. Yeah. It's behind the general store. It's more in the town.
That one is very active as well.
Yeah, and that's only part of the house, the original house. The rest of it burned. Yeah, and we just moved part of that one there.
Nice. And so they've recently kind of accepted the fact that it's something's happening there, to where they're allowing people now to investigate.
They've been doing it.
We've been doing it for years. We had something, I don't know, 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now, where we had 3 different teams out there. We were in like 6 different
We've done that a couple of times.
6 different locations out there, and we tour it. But again, they're a venue where they have weddings, and you can't have all that going on when you're having an investigation.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it's not that they don't want to have the investigations. It's just that they make more money from them weddings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So they got to keep it open for that, because we were actually scheduled to do one, and we had to cancel because the person had scheduled a wedding at the same time, and I'm like, no, they're like, will you just stay at your end of the
right. No, because the noise contamination and everything.
People carousing out there outside your building.
Yeah.
But they've been pretty open. It's just really it's where they have to draw the line because of money. If we could hold it at the same time as the wedding, it's fine. But.
All right, we've hit on Tinker. We've hit on the Memorial Hall. You guys hit a little bit on Coronado. We actually. Me and my son, before we went to your guys' presentation at Memorial Hall, we actually did a spirit box session in the garage across the street from Coronado, because there was a story of a lady in white that was in the elevator, and police were called there for a lady in the elevator, and they got there and there's no one there. We actually took a spirit box. We went up to the top floor, and we had two voices that kept coming through the spirit box, and one seemed like a very menacing voice, like a domineering male voice that was coming through, and there was like a innocent woman voice coming through, and we're like, well, we're gonna leave now because it was time to go over and see your guys' thing. And when we were getting into the elevator, the woman's voice says, "Don't forget me" or something like that, and so she didn't want us leaving her there with whatever was up there with her.
Wow. So the men's menacing spirit, and if you look from a historical viewpoint, sometimes homeless guys sleep in there, and one of them I know a few years ago passed away.
Oh wow.
So if you think about that, and that's his home. I mean, you're in his home, and so he doesn't know what you're doing there.
Yeah.
Again, he could just be like, hey, this is my space, this is where I sleep. As far as the woman in white, I have been chasing this woman in white for the 20 years. The 17 years I've been, and sometimes when I hear stories, and you know how excited you guys get when we get voices or you get validation. I get really excited when the legend turns out to be true.
True. Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the woman in white, there's too many reasons that she could be hunting there. There's too many people that it could be. Just for a quick, there was a story that I did about this house out on the west side of Rockford. A family lived there. They had a little girl ghost. Mm-hmm. And the story went behind it that this little girl had drowned in a bathtub a year or two before. Actually, I found the story that it happened, and it was a little worse than the drowning. She had actually was being babysat by her uncle, and he made a bath for her, but it was too hot, and she jumped in when he went out to get something, and she died. But she was in the house still, and would try to interact with the family because they had another little girl.
Yeah.
So that one, you're like, oh, I found her. You could put a name to it.
Yeah.
This woman in white, there's too many. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of girls that in the 1800s decided to drown themselves in the river.
Yeah.
And the one that I tend to think it is actually drowned herself and her son. So there's Carrie Brown. Her family is the one who has the Brown, the William Brown building. Her family was that Brown family.
Yeah.
And she had gone away to school and had an accident. She fell out of her dorm window and had major brain trauma.
How did that even happen? There's so many questions right there.
She was sleepwalking and didn't realize, I guess, in her...
Oh, she was sleepwalking and fell out.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's less funny.
Yeah.
Now I just feel like an a-hole.
But, before she left for school, here she was the top echelon of the society here in town. She had a really great boyfriend. And then she has this horrible accident where she had to learn to walk and talk and feed herself and everything again. They brought her home, and she just thought that it was a lot to put on her family. They had to take care of her boyfriend, you shouldn't feel like you're tied to me because of what happened, So she went through a lot, and she finally just couldn't do it anymore. She left a note for her family, and they had a huge house right on North 2nd Street, right by the river.
Really?
And she left the note. Her father woke up and could tell she hadn't been to bed, and found this note, this letter that she had written. And he ran outside, and he found her shawl on the bank of the river.
Oh.
She wasn't found for 2 weeks.
Oof.
And they found her body all the way down by Grand Detour. That's like 30 miles away.
Right.
And it took like a month for them to find her.
Oh, yeah, there's
And
must
when
not
they
been too much.
pulled her out of there, her face was perfect. Nothing.
What?
Nothing.
Wow.
No bruises. No nothing.
Well, was this like in the winter? So
it was in the spring, so the waters were a little
Alright.
cooler.
I was gonna say if the water was a little cool, it would have.
Creatures, right?
Yeah.
Like turtles.
Yeah.
Other girls that had done it around the same time, their faces were ravaged by the critters or just rocks. I mean, they were running over. So she traveled a long way, and they said when they flipped her over, her face was perfect. It looked like she was sleeping.
Wow.
And they brought her, because the father had such a place in society here in Rockford, they hired a special train to bring her body home. That's how well thought of these people were. Could be her.
Wow.
It could be this other lady, Josie Dunn, who drowned herself and her little boy in that river. Could be Lily Olson, the Olson family, the Olson funeral home. Is still 5 generations later running a funeral and helping people handle their grief.
Yeah, definitely.
When their daughter went missing, again, she was found in the river. She had. I don't think she killed herself. I think she slipped. They found some stuff on a bridge, and I think she just slipped and fell in, I'm hoping. But she had, she had some problems, but she was young and beautiful, and it's sad, that these girls ended up where they did. And so that woman in white can be
she's tricky, huh?
Yeah, so many things.
We did get a name. It wasn't the female name. It was that domineering male voice. And what was wild about it is that it came through and it said David. And then it was kind of hard for me to hear because it's like the echo up there because you're in that echo room. And I go, can you say your name again? And it came through, and it was like he got pissed off that I was asking, and he goes, David. So, did say David twice up there. So, and you could definitely tell that his spirit was more demanding up there than this woman's. Yeah. Because when we were getting into the elevator, she wanted us to wait for her. So.
Yeah, that was it's a good story. We tell that one when we do the tours downtown, and I just rotate the girls in.
No.
Some years I tell the story, this story or that story, but that the one about the elevator going, that was
So if you guys want to see some of this evidence, check out our YouTube channel because we have videos out there of this incident.
I'd love to.
Where we've got that out there. Our Tinker Swiss videos are out there as well.
Except the one where you're dissing Sam.
I forget which episode of the podcast that was, but that is out there. But.
Yeah, give us a few days to go through them all, and then we'll.
But yeah, so if you guys want to check that out, check out our YouTube page. Last year, 2 years ago, I was out in New Jersey and did with some friends, and we went on to Clinton Road. It's one of the most haunted roads. The Iceman, he was the serial killer, or hitman, I guess. They wanted to dump him as a serial killer. He would dump bodies out there, and we had some instances out there. So that evidence is out there on YouTube as well. So yeah, if you guys want to check that out. So going through more stuff here in Rockford, the one that always sticks out in my mind, and I don't know where I read it, or it's just everyone's hearsay, but Twin Sisters Park, there's supposed to be some like willow tree where some witch hung herself, or she got hung, or there was little kids killed out there. There's just so many different things that I've heard on this, and I don't know if you've done research on this so-called, is it even a tree out there?
Yes, there is a willow tree. It's at so as you go into the parking lot, it's at the very far end along near the creek. There is a great big willow tree there. I used to play in that tree all the time.
Have you picked up anything? Because I have tried to research the stories that have come through, and I haven't found anything.
So, not at the tree, all right? My sister and I, my family used to live over there on Glendale. And so back when we could be children and we could go out to the park and nobody cared where we were at, you know, we spent a lot of time out there. And so there's a forest back there too. It's a little bitty forest, but you know, we played in the woods all the time. So not at the tree. No, I never felt anything weird at the tree. I was always kind of at home in the woods. I was always happier out there than I was in my own house. But one day, because there's the legend of the black dog too that's out there.
No, see, I haven't heard that one.
Oh yeah, Mike Clean wrote about this. I can't remember which book it's in, but there's the legend of the black dog. Well, I didn't know about any legend, but I can tell you I've seen the black dog. It was bizarre. We were walking, so you go to the tree, you go around behind the tree, and you head into the woods. And there's kind of like, I don't know, rabbit paths or whatever. Maybe like there's a path for the high school kids or whatnot as they head towards east. I don't know. So I take this path, and it comes through the woods, and then it comes up and around to there's a little hill behind the forest. And honestly, when you get kind of up to the top, you can see East High School pretty well. So anyway, my sister and I, we had our dog. We were walking in that area. We walked behind. So it's not the big three hills, not the main hills. It's behind all of that. We're in the woods. We come through the woods. We come to the little area back there that, you know, only we knew about. And my sister's in front. I think she actually had the dog because I don't think I had, but maybe I had her. But and the grass is very tall, so I had to be probably, I don't know, maybe 13-ish. I'm only 5'6", so I wasn't a whole lot taller or shorter. You know, or taller. I wasn't taller back then. I wasn't a whole lot shorter back then. But the grass was pretty tall. It was probably hip height. So my sister starts down the little hill, and I'm walking. And so if I can paint the picture, to my left is the tree line. We're on the hill. I'm looking down. You can see the little trees up in front and the break of the big hills, right? And then to my right is some more scrub trees, and then East High School, eventually across the road to East. And as I looked over, there's what looks like a black German Shepherd. I mean, all black. Black German Shepherd sitting there. Ears are up. You know how they got those pointy ears. The ears are up. They're like, he's watching. And I was like, I had a brown moment because I thought, oh my gosh, here's a loose dog, right? I've got my dog and my sister, and, you know, what are we going to do? You know, and we're just kids. So what are we going to do? This thing is loose. And I remember so distinctly, so its ears are up, it's looking at me, this is my dog face, and then it turns its head, so you can see the nose, you can see like the muzzle, the dog mouth, and then it looks back, and so I looked at my sister to kind of gauge where she was at, because I'm like, holy crap, I don't know what we're going to do, because you're not supposed to run, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do. So I looked to see her in front of me. She has no idea. She's far enough. She's got to be 15, 20 feet in front of me. And I look back, there's no dog. No dog. I didn't hear anything run through. And so I grew up in these woods. Most of my family lives in northern Wisconsin, so I grew up in the woods. I was used to the sound of animals running through grass or, you know, trees or whatnot. A dog makes sound. And I was like, gosh, I didn't hear anything. So I go to investigate because, you know, that's who I am. So I walk over to where I had seen this dog. And there is a little rock on the ground. It had to be elevated from the ground, jutting out maybe a foot, right? So it's not very high. And I looked at the rock, I looked at the grass, and the grass was tall enough that even a German Shepherd, which is a tall dog, it's a big dog, it wasn't. I'm struggling with this man.
Yeah.
It's driving me nuts. The dog, even if it looked like it was sitting down. When it was looking at us, it was sitting. You can tell, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can see how a dog sits. They have a different shape than when they're standing. Sure. So you could tell it was sitting down. And then when it turned its head, you could definitely tell it was sitting down. But anyway, I spot this rock. There are no tracks or anything, but you wouldn't have been able to tell. The grass was tall enough that even if the dog had been there and was sitting down, you wouldn't have seen the full ears, head, and this head, the whole shoulder. You saw the whole chest area out of the grass. The grass was tall enough you shouldn't have seen any of that. You might have seen the ears poking up, maybe the top of the eyes. This dog, the way, when I was looking at it, I had to deduce this dog had to be floating in order for that much of him to be off over the
or there's a dog man.
The gosh, I don't know. Now that you mention it,
dog man standing there.
Yeah, but I mean, he had to be floating because there was no way for him to have this from the chest up, much of his body out of that grass, and be visible. He had to be elevated off. There was no higher point for him to be, because I went right to, it was broad daylight. It was middle of the afternoon. I walked right over there. There was no dog to be found. I looked to make sure he wasn't running somewhere. And then, I looked and there's a little bit of a thing. I even stepped up on the rock to see how much more elevation I would get.
That's crazy.
So I've seen him. And then I never saw him again. And I did not know anything about it. I thought, maybe it's
I've never heard of that.
Mike Clean wrote about that's the first time I ever heard about the black dog.
Yeah, the only time I've ever heard about the black dog is like when truckers are out driving and they see the black dog.
Yeah. Oh God, what does that mean for me? Explains a lot. No, but I had never heard of it until Mike Clean wrote about the legend of the black dog over there. And I was like,
now, do you think that only since you are a sensitive like that, to where maybe it was something that only you could see at the time?
I don't. That's a good question. I really don't have an answer for that.
Like you the spider thing. Maybe instead of a spider entity, it was taking the form of a dog entity.
Yeah, I don't really have an answer for that. I was absolutely convinced it was a dog, and that we might be having an issue because if it came after us, what were we going to do? We had nothing to defend ourselves with.
Because I don't think there's been any stories of any dogmen sightings in the northern Illinois area.
I don't think so either.
Besides the Beast of Bray Road.
Yeah, but that's Wisconsin.
It's not too far away.
No, not too far, but I've not heard of it.
So we talk cryptids every once in a while on the podcast. Does Rockford have any kind of cryptid? Because Mothman is really close now. He's been in the news a lot lately, and I don't know if he's ever made a sighting in Rockford or...
So, the couple that I know about, I read about when I was investigating and researching the Coronado Theater. A weird little critter showed up on the stage one time. Somebody was doing, cleaning up after a show, and pulled back the curtain, and there was a 3-foot little fuzzy creature thing there.
Wow, like an Ewok?
Yeah, nobody seems to know who this was that saw this. I've not been able to find anybody. Nobody's owning up to that. I never wrote about him. And then there was a Bigfoot sighting off of Kishwaukee.
Really?
River. Yep. And if you go into you're going to be very impressed. Bigfoot Organization Research. Bigfoot Research Organization. It's like BRFO something. I was doing another event for the library, and I used to teach about, we had a thing for kids about cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of went on there to see if there's a map. You can kind of look at every state, how many sightings they've had, and so I narrowed down to Illinois, and then I'll be darned if there wasn't one off of the Kishwaukee River. Apparently a guy was coming home, and he was late at night during the winter months, and he had pulled in, and he saw this creature in his driveway, and then it kind of looked back at him, and then stepped over his kind of like hopped over his 8-foot fence.
Wow.
And then he never saw it again. But I was like,
wow, yeah, we got Bigfoot around here. All right,
That's amazing.
Right?
When was that?
I don't.
Last Tuesday.
Yeah, it was like Tuesday at 3:30.
Yeah,
it
damn
was
it, Stanley, what were you doing?
Probably 30 years ago now, but it was maybe 20 years ago now. But it was pretty cool to find that when I'm not from here, like I mentioned, and in the 70s when I lived in Iowa, out in the farms, we had a rash of sightings there, and people were bringing. They had followed it, and they had brought in the hare that got caught in the barbed wire fence, and the typical story. They had it analyzed. And it was a DNA. And nobody could recognize. It was close to some things, but not anything they could recognize. So that was probably the beginning of when I was interested in cryptid back in the 70s.
Right.
But those are the two that jump into my mind. Pam, did you have any?
Yeah, I do have a friend back in high school. He and one of his buddies were out driving. I mean, if for those who are not familiar with Rockford area, you got Rockford and it's a good-sized town, and then literally everywhere else is just cornfields. And so New Milford's one of those bitty little towns just south of here, and so they were driving through New Milford, driving through the cornfields, and all of a sudden they slowed down because they could see something large was running through the cornfields towards the road. And so as they slowed down, they watched this ginormous thing that ran into the road but then spread wings and flew straight up into the night. And so I said, "Oh, that's Mothman." And he goes, No, we're calling it the deer bat.
I don't know. It's not quite as cool.
Sounds like a dingbat.
But that just reminded me, too. I did do a couple stories on the Native American folklore of this area. Had a sea serpent in the Rock River. It came down from Lake Ashkenaun.
Okay.
So up and down between here and Lake Ashkenaun, this thing would knock the Native American men out of their little canoes and then eat them. So they learned to keep away, or they would offer a sacrifice of tobacco and stuff if they had to cross at certain places. But the dam at Rockford is about as far down as it came on the Rock River.
Oh, wow. The Rockness Monster.
The Rockness Monster. But I wrote about that one because it was really interesting to me that Lake Ashkenaun has all these legends about it and how it transferred down here. Maybe we just felt jealous that we didn't have a cryptid down here.
Oh, wow.
Can I interject?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, get up on that microphone.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
I'm Randy. I'm part of the ownership of Wolf Hollow here.
I feel like we're at AA meeting.
Yeah.
Hi, Randy.
Hi. I would like to interject about Mothman. I did hear a podcast. It was a local guy. Can't remember, part of NORAD or
NORAD?
What's the paranormal group? You had them at the
Dan
Norvell.
This is an actual group, and they have a Rockford chapter.
Greg?
It might have been part of Greg.
Yeah, there's the greater, the ghost.
The greater Rockford.
They talked about Mothman, and there's been several sightings of Mothman here in Rockford.
Recently too.
Yeah. And
where?
Yeah,
I know. There was one. Where are we going to find one recently?
There's been one at the airport.
He's going to Cancun.
Yeah, because all the ones we've been keeping tabs on, and we've been talking about on the podcast about the Mothman that's been seen at O'Hare a few times now, and then there was a sighting in what is that? The town with the cow.
Harvard.
The town with the cow?
The town with the cow. When you say a town with the cow, you know what we're talking about. The Harvard.
We have a cow here.
Everybody not from this area is like, what are they doing?
Yeah. You know the town with the cow. Yeah, Harvard. There's been a spotting out that way.
I think that was a lady that worked in the Amazon part. I think that called in the latest one. But I wasn't sure if
she saw Mothman?
She saw something like the Mothman.
The ones that I've heard actually have been on the west side of Rockford.
I live on the west side of Rockford. Yeah, like where on the west side are we at?
Are we northwest? Are we south?
Far west. We would be
Far
over
west.
by Auburn High School.
Oh,
Because
that's
it's
Really?
like Willard Avenue.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
So
I
in
see.
that area.
Our old stomping ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you go back and you look at
No, it's not that far. Yeah.
with the history of Mothman is a harbinger of something bad is going to happen. So if we're seeing it in
He should be
Rockford,
everywhere right now.
what's going on?
Where's he been since 2020?
Well,
Wearing a mask. That's what I
well,
want.
here
Is he social distancing?
when we first brought up Mothman into the podcast, we were talking about he was sighted at O'Hare. That was the first time they were citing him in Chicago. He was sighted the week before the first case of COVID came through O'Hare.
What?
So me being the conspiracy guy is like, well, Mothman was here a week before COVID got here, so maybe Mothman was
Responsible for COVID?
well. I'm not saying he's well, he is a bat, and they say that somebody ate a
just
bat
saying,
and this and
like-
that, but maybe he was here as the warning.
Yeah, like a harbinger.
Yeah.
He must have been really busy this year, then. That's all I have to say. Because he had to be everywhere.
There's a lot of well
There's
now
a lot of
they're
bad
seeing
things going on.
yeah, well even everybody's seeing him now. He said.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is the first time I've been hearing it in Rockford.
It raises the question then: is it Mothman?
Mothman, like
The same way.
Do they gender identify as Mothman? Since we're there now, we are in the upside down, folks. Like, I don't even know.
So then my thinking is, well,
Big feet.
is there any way that because they have what they call the Thunderbirds down in like the Carolinas? Is this a form of Thunderbird? That just kind of came out of nowhere, or it's like a mutation of something?
Yeah.
Now in this area.
But Thunderbirds, though, were more southwest, right? Like,
No,
I don't
there was
know.
one in Alton. They have it on. It was painted on the side of the cliff there in Alton.
I've never been to Alton.
What is wrong?
I know. I basically suck as a human. Like, I
I keep
don't
talking
know.
about on your list that we've been, and she's like, "No, I haven't been."
I haven't been there. I haven't been. You know what? I've been poor, so.
Well, let me tell you, Alton's not that expensive. Like,
Couldn't travel. Man, yeah, I gotta get to Alton. I want to go so bad.
Yeah.
So there was a thunder. I thought it was really the
It's
southwest.
painted right on the Mississippi, on a cliff.
Well, I was in South Dakota. They had a buffalo painted on the wall, but it wasn't in town. I don't know where I was going with that.
I got nothing.
I got nothing. So they saw one in like a long time ago?
Yeah, it was when
Thunderbirds were more.
Yeah, when the Thunderbirds were more. Yeah. The most recent one, I think, in the 70s was the one in. I want to say it was in Illinois that it came and picked up the little boy.
What?
He was
Oh, wow.
playing in the yard, and I was at
the front door.
Troy Taylor's conference
They
again,
pick
and
people up?
he picked up this little boy, and he started to get, and he squirmed, and the bird dropped him, but it swooped down, grabbed the little kid.
How old was this kid?
He probably was 5. I mean, not very big for a 5-year-old either. I mean, he just swooped and grabbed
So
it.
Thunderbird meat is.
If you watch the show Monsters, the one that they had not too long ago about all these cool monsters sightings that they've had, it's on there. So
Really?
Wow.
There's.
I was today years old when I found out Thunderbirds could fly off with people. I got a whole new host of things to worry about.
I know.
Forget COVID. You don't know. Death from above. I don't know.
Wow.
Out there trying to tour Alton, Illinois, flying away.
There's other things in Alton that you can find that,
We have about 20 minutes left here. Now, branching out a little bit farther from Rockford, one of the other big, I don't know what you want to call it, like things that everyone talks about is the Lady in White on Route 2 or Kennedy Hill.
She's not really a lady in white. She's not wearing much at all.
Oh, really? I've always heard it was a Lady in White.
In Kennedy Hill, no.
No?
That came out in the 80s. It was really, really big in the 80s. And it was in December. And a lady was coming home. And she passed. And she couldn't believe what she saw. There was a girl that was walking along the road. She wasn't super, like, she wasn't dressed for the weather. When that lady saw her, I think she was like in her running shorts and a tank top.
Okay.
And she pulled into her driveway, and the woman, she expected her to go by, and she thought, well, maybe I should offer her to come in and get some clothes on, or, you know, something to warm up. She was worried. It was really cool. And she waited, and nothing passed. That was the start of it. And then between, like, the Christmas to middle of January, she saw a lot.
Really?
And it seemed like it depended on...
Wasn't some chick just out running on, you know, on occasion?
It could have been. Now, there's also some people that say that they're... I actually have a picture taken from the police officers. When this was really going, people were lining that area. And they made T-shirts. And there was... Byron had a bar that had a drink and a burger, you know, named after her. So it really took off, and people were just waiting out there to see her. But this police officer was out there because, you know, he was trying to get the people to leave. It was causing some problem. That's a big hill to go hanging out with. And he was there, and he saw what he thought was a person. In some of the men that saw this girl were saying that she wore like just underpants, like black underpants in her bra. So
a little ahead of her time.
Yeah. So he saw this person, and it looked like he had black, you know, that she had black underpants on. But as he got closer, he took a picture. And it was actually kind of a heavy-set guy with a white sweatsuit underneath the pair of black.
No.
You know, now some people give Rockford a bad name and say that we're not really very smart. But I think that anybody who saw a man in a sweatsuit with black would be able to tell that from a woman wearing scantily clothes. I mean, give us a little credit.
Yeah, he must have had the beer goggles on.
Yeah, maybe he wanted to be part of it. You know, he wanted his 15 minutes of shame because, damn. You know, that's the way you have to get your kicks. They said that this woman that they had seen might have been somebody who was killed in, you know, like got hit and run kind of situation. Or maybe because there are, and, you know, we know this, there's a lot of little defunct cemeteries. And there might have been one there, and it had been plowed over, and she's wandering. I don't know why she's not been addressed, but, you know.
But she wants to be remembered.
Yeah.
Like, I could show up in the gown they buried me, or I could wear this. Busting out her inner hoe, you know. That's how I wanted people to see me in life.
Now, I have told that story a lot, and I have gone from the 80s all the way back to 1970 looking for a car accident.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, maybe... when I came from Nebraska, we had a story much like this. A girl and a guy had been out on a road, got into a fight. The girl says, you know, screw you, jumps out of the car and starts walking home from out of town. Unfortunately, she got hit by a car. The person thought they hit a deer. I don't know how you can miss that. And
it looks so similar.
Yeah. And several people had unfortunately run over her by the time they figured out that it was a girl. And
so you don't notice there's a body in the road. You're like, you know what? Keep going.
Wow.
Keep going.
So after that happened, the girl walked. You know, her ghost was seen on that road a lot. So when I heard this, I thought, oh, that's kind of weird that these stories happened about the same time.
Now, Resurrection Mary is about the same time, right?
No, Mary's is way back. But when I was telling this story to one of, I do groups all the time, and this was a retired engineer from Sunstrand. And I was saying, I have researched the story all the way back to 1970. And the guy didn't say anything, but after everybody else left, he kind of hung around, and he said, can I talk to you for a minute? And I said, sure. And he said, you know, I was in high school in 1965. And I was driving home with my friend from Byron, and we saw her. She's even earlier than I had originally thought. So I need to go back farther now and try to figure out who she is. And you know that's what I love about this is
Right.
people tell you things and you're like, I have one more piece to
Yeah,
that puzzle.
yeah, but then it gets misconstrued along the way because I'm sitting here thinking there's a lady in white, and you're saying there's a lady in her thong just running down the road too.
I mean, at this point, it could be.
Yeah, right. As the years progress, she moves on with the right.
In the 80s, she had those cone bras. Out there voguing.
But again, this is how legends get started,
Yeah.
and those, why they're interesting to me, are not, I can't prove them. So,
Yeah.
but you mentioned the Resurrection Mary story. Funny thing, as far as I can tell, the Chicago story started between 34 and 35.
Okay.
I've read Ursula Bielski's stuff on it. I've read Dale Kazmarek stuff on it. I found a story in 1933 here. A couple that had been to the Columbian Exposition in Chicago was coming home from that. And they're driving along, and they're about Belvedere on 20, which they called the Grant Highway at that time. They're coming home, and they see a woman on the side of the road, and she's dressed like to go to a party. So they stop and offer her a ride, and she gets in the back of the car. Her name is Mrs. Johnson. She tells them where to drop her off, much similar to the Resurrection Mary story. She gets in, and she's chatting, and they're talking about her lovely outfit, and she said, I was at a party with my friends, and they're chatting. And then, it's late, so it gets quiet, and the wife kind of turns back and looks like she must have fallen asleep. So she looks back to see if she's laying on the seat behind her, and there's nothing there.
Wow.
The husband brakes his car real quick, and they get out, and they're looking like, did she fall out of the car?
Wow.
Because in 1933, the cars weren't like they are now.
Yeah.
They find nothing.
That's amazing.
They went back home and thought about it, and then they decided to go to her apartment. They go to the address she had given him, and there's a man there, and he said, there's no Mrs. Johnson here now, but one lived here like a year before. So I researched, and in 1932, a woman had been hit on the Belvedere Road. She was actually, it was during Prohibition time. Her and her friends had gone into Belvedere and stopped at a tavern. She had left her two kids at home by themselves, real young, and they decided they were too drunk to drive, so they parked the car and started to walk back to Rockford, and she got hit by a car.
Wow. And was her name
Mrs. Johnson.
Wow.
It was Mrs. That's how I found her.
That's amazing.
And the fact that it predates the Resurrection Mary story was cool to me.
Yeah, and the validation, these people were probably made to be, you guys are crazy, you guys are making this up. They wouldn't give their name.
The couple never give the name in the article.
So
they have told the story, and, but what I thought was really interesting was the two children that Mrs. Johnson left at home. Her husband had left her. They couldn't find the father. They couldn't find any family member. I don't know what happened with those kids. It said they were going to give it one more month, and then they would have to decide what to do with those children.
Wow. One more thing I want to hit on here, because we got about 10 minutes left. We talked about it a little bit, because we had somebody come in, some kids, and it's always the kids. Bloods Point Road. Is this just one of those things where it's just kids going out there being dumb, or is there legitimately something with Bloods Point Road?
So every time I think that it's really nothing, somebody else will come up after one of our events or something and say, I did have an experience there, but it's usually the car, the one that comes up right behind you and you feel like they're going to run into you. That's the one story that that seems to be more popular. We've had people we know that said that they've been chased by the demon dog.
Yeah, some demon dog.
Yeah, so it's just very strange. Now, I'm not from here, like I told you, but even when I moved here, that was the big thing, the Bloods Point Road. So Mike Clean, who Sarah talked about earlier, He's the first guy that ever told me he Googled me.
Hey, you know, hey.
I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah, you're Googling. You're doing what to me? You Googled me.
Get out of here, creeper.
That sounds about dirty.
So then he wanted to know if I would go on Streets of Fear with him for the net, fearnet.com.
Oh, okay.
They did a short thing during the Halloween time, and they talked about these streets that were supposedly haunted. So Bloods Point Road was the one they were talking about. I've never been like out to the cemetery. I said I can't talk about it unless I go visit. So we went out there. You know, you have to go at night, 12:30, whatever. And you know, like Sarah said, I go to a lot of places alone. But Mike went with me, and my daughter went with me. So we get out, and his big fear, we were going to be arrested. Now,
See, that's why I've never gone out there, is because I keep hearing the police heavily. You know,
it is, and rightly so, because it has been damaged. It's horrible.
I think the sign is gone now, right?
Yeah.
Or something like it's
well,
not.
all the street signs used to say Bloods Point Road, and now it's just
Yeah.
BLDPT. But anyway, we got out there. The only thing we ever heard or anything, we were sitting in the shed that was now gone. It's now gone. And we're sitting there, and we were trying to do a ghost, you know, a digital recorder session, and all we kept getting was cows. Now, cows can sound pretty darn scary at 12:30 in the morning, and you're sitting there, and you're like, "Can you give us a sign you're hearing?"
Can you hear them, Clarice? Can you hear the cows screaming?
You're like, man, was that a cow? So, and it does feel, and people ask me what's the most haunted place I've ever been to. And it's like anywhere I'm standing at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty damn scary.
Right?
But, when you're in the cemetery after hours, it can feel pretty scary. But,
because I've heard like people catch orbs, like white orbs in the cemetery.
But if you think about how much vandalized, that place has been heavily hurt by people going and visiting and knocking down tombstones. And if I was somebody who was buried in that place, I'd be damn pissed off.
Unrest.
Maybe I'd throw an orb at somebody.
Throw an orb.
You know what I mean? So my thing is, the stories that they tell out there, I can tell you, I've done the research. Arthur Blood, the reason it's named Bloods Point Road wasn't because of an Indian massacre or whatever you might heard. It's because a guy named Arthur Blood bought the property.
Okay.
He didn't kill his children because I found him living in Iowa a few years later with all of the children listed. There's nobody even by the name of Blood buried at that cemetery.
Oh, wow.
There is one at Cherry Valley because, again, extension of the Blood family.
Jeez.
It's just a name. So, but, I just really, really impress upon people. It's okay to go and visit cemeteries. It's okay to do the research, but let's not knock the tombstones down.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're asking me, that's the express way to hell.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's how you find a demon.
Yeah.
And you can
your house that show, right?
Well,
church, it doesn't fit in knock down a
well, I appreciate you ladies stepping in here today, and you guys put in like a good 3 hours with me here, and I really appreciate it. And what's that?
It's only a couple.
Oh, well, I really appreciate it. If you guys have anything you want to plug right now?
Well, of course, we want to plug the Tinker Swiss Cottage. They are, if you go to their website, you can see their upcoming events, which we hope, fingers crossed, will happen in March. And we're going to be doing Haunted Rockford events. We're just kind of waiting to, because we hate to cancel anything, and we had to do that a couple of times. Hopefully we'll get back into doing our conference again. But, there's new stories going up on the website, so it's hauntedrockford.com, and you can check out our events, some of the articles, you can purchase a t-shirt, that kind of stuff.
And what I really appreciate is all the work that you put in, researching this stuff. Here, I'm putting on a podcast, reading off of Wikipedia for the most part, and then we just kind of veer off and talk, weird talk, but you actually dig in hard, heels to the ground, and just get into it. And that's really appreciated in the paranormal world, that you're going back and looking to validate things. for stories that are out there. Like you're looking in for the lady in white. It sounds like you haven't given up. Never. It's your white whale, right? So I really appreciate it. So it is hauntedrockford.com.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much for that. And I've really been very humbled and very impressed with the people that read my stuff, and they're always very kind to me. I started this out just wanting to share some stories, and then it just has become an obsession, and I've met the most wonderful people, like Randy and Elizabeth here at Wolf Hollow, and Sarah and Sam. I mean, I've been very, very lucky that the universe seems to bring me the greatest people, and it's worked out really well. And it's just wonderful to be able to have this outlet to do.
Yeah, very cool.
To follow my passion for history. So thank you.
You got anything to plug? You said you guys are actually working on a podcast.
Yeah, Kathy and I. So if you want to hear more stories, we're gonna talk about Kathy's stories. We're gonna talk about Haunted Rockford. We're gonna interview people like Sam, like just everybody that we can think of, every topic that you can imagine. If it goes bump in the night, we'll talk about it.
And if you guys want podcasting that's class, because you ladies are classy. The people listening to this
Low
podcast,
class maybe, there's class.
We have to really clean it up when we come to events like this. But any other time, it gets different on our podcast. But you guys are a very classy bunch. So if you guys want paranormal class,
you'll be able to catch us. We're not ready to kick it off yet, but the trailer is up on Spotify at the Paranormal Parlor. Parlor, P-A-L-O-R, not like the recent Parlor social media issue. So the other Parlor, the kind you sit in. You can catch our trailer over there, Spotify. We're going through Anchor, so you'll be able to catch us on Castbox, eventually on Apple iTunes, wherever their podcasts are. Like you said, I don't even know what they're called anymore. But it's the Paranormal Parlor. We're going to discuss everything that pretty much goes bump in the night and just have a ton of fun doing it.
I hope so.
Yeah, hope so. If not, then we'll just scrap the whole thing.
All right. So, like I said, I really appreciate you ladies spending your Saturday with me.
Thank you so much.
And Randy and Elizabeth for having this out. It's been about a year. We usually host the Dead Guy Festival in February, and of course that didn't happen this year, and we didn't have a conference last year. So
I think they're going to see a lot more of us through social media, podcasting, of course, but also, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. You can catch me over there at Haunted Sarah B.
Definitely anything online right now is hot. I'll drop an episode, and the next day I'll look at my analytics. I got 1,000 downloads in the podcast. So people are hungry for the content right now. So
and it's not their fault that we haven't had a lot for the Haunted Rockford. They've been trying with me. It's just I've been a one-man show for a while, and it's hard to branch out into, because all the stuff that Sarah was saying, this is like another language. But we're learning. I know what's
I'm going to drag her kicking and screaming.
What is this Google you talk about?
Beat her into this. What is this world of podcasting?
Yes. What is this cast of pods you talk about?
This internet.
How did you get the files in there?
That's a great one.
You got the reference.
You know what? So I couldn't learn math or Spanish in school ever because my brain is so full of movie quotes. So, I'm sorry. If I want to learn that, I'd have to give up the movie quotes, and you never know when you're going to need one.
But how will they fit in there? It's so small.
What is this? It's school for ants? It has to be at least 3 times bigger.
All right, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for being here. Thanks, Randy and Elizabeth. Wolf Hollow for having us out here. Like I said, this is the 4th time that they've had us out here, so they must like us out here. And we did, when we investigated here, we did live broadcast as well. So, people got to see a little bit of the stuff that goes into doing an investigation and stuff like that. So we live fed from here as well. So technically 5 times we've been live feeding from here. But I want to thank you guys for having us out. Like I said, one day I promise we'll get all the Ghost Freaking Talking crew here. But trying to get all of our stuff together on one day is pretty hard. But I appreciate you guys backing me up and coming in and giving us some spooky stuff and some history of a lot of the Rockford. And so I really appreciate that. If you guys can, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube and hit that notification bell so when new videos or live feeds come up, you'll be the first one to know. Also, make sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram. There might be a Twitter, but I don't think people tweet anymore. Is it Twitter still a thing? We are on TikTok, so that is if you want to be hidden, you gotta get hidden on TikTok. So we are on TikTok as well. Make sure also, if you guys have paranormal stories, don't be afraid to share it with us. We will read them here on the show, and to reach us is ghostft@yahoo.com. Once again, that is ghostft@yahoo.com. We want to also do one more plug for our friend Kevin Hinkle at SC Shop, Mr. Hinkle Draws. Go out there and get some awesome, he's got some spooky stickers out there of classic horror movie characters. Go out there and do that as well. Alright guys, so once again, thanks for everyone here at Wolf Hollow, and as always, everyone has a story to tell.